Well, welcome. This is Tampa Home Talk, and I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Thanks for joining us today. Are we live yet there, Mark? Yes?
Live and well.
All right. Welcome. This is Tampa Home Talk. And as much as we wanted to change our intro for 2019, it didn't happen yet. We promised some changes coming as of next week. I'm going to have to make sure the intro gets pulled so we can get the new one in there.
That would make it a resolution, not a goal.
Well, you know, one of those. We'll get there. So, anyhow, welcome. This is 2019. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Happy to join you again this Friday morning here with Adam Talley and Leo Kane with Barrel Engineering and Inspection, Ada Provenzana, and our special guest, Lisa Marie Garcia. Now, she's the CEO in Enterprise Communication Services, and she is a former tech CEO, right? Be a lot of you guys running around the next couple of years, I'm sure. And you founded one of the first telecommunication professional services firms in the U.S. when she was only 27 years old. And she brought this company to market, leaving offices in Seattle, Portland, and even 2013. So we're going to have to find out how you landed here in the Tampa market. And she's also published her New York Times book, Never Drink Coffee During a Business Meeting. We're going to find out what that's all about. And the title for today's show, we can't wait to talk to you about this, is all about why business executives, CEOs, and people that want to be out there with their brand, why they should be branded by their own book. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Great to be here. We're really glad to have you. It's interesting because and you love to talk to agents too, and your personal belief and thought is every agent should have their own book?
Absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, you have to distinguish yourself in any market you are in, any market that you're in.
Keep going. I'm just going to adjust you a little bit there.
And with that, depending on the marketplace and the industry and the vertical market that you live in and work and try to bring revenue into and communicate with and connect with, you really got to look at what is the size of that market. Are there 5 of you or are there 500 of you in a room? And for realtors, it's usually 500.
Yeah, or more, right?
Right. So it's an absolute necessity in this day and age to not have a business card to hand out, to have a book.
So tell me about your book. Like, why do you think that somebody that really has a message to share should share a book instead of a business card? Because that's your belief, right?
Right. No, absolutely. And it's what we do for business owners. Well, first of all, your book is going to speak to your niche directly. It is going to let you have that conversation with a potential client, but then leave them with the full chapter on the conversation that you just had. It's going to be something that's going to stay with them. It's going to be like they say, with promotion products, like you might give a pen, free pens out, right? And there's stats about how long that pen stays on someone's desk, how long, someone keeps a flyer and all of that. A book is something that will stay with that potential client, and it will differentiate you from all the other realtors they possibly talked with. And inevitably, they will read something out of that book. They will look at the back of the book. They will open it up and flip to it. If it's a very well-written book, which it should be, and if it's a captivating book, maybe there's a few pictures in there, maybe there's some pullouts and takeaways that we do, it will keep you in front of that potential client.
Now, I'm curious. You have a lot of information on stats. Like, do you have any of that information readily available with regards to, like, how long a pen should stick around? And even more curious about the book. Like, what percentage of people might not actually even read it? Well, just out of curiosity, because there's people that don't.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, what we say in our publishing company, here's what we say. We say, how many of us have books that we haven't finished, right? I've got 3 or 4 of them. And what is the reason? The reason is, as we were reading the book, it started to lose us. It started going off a different direction than we thought or we were interested in. It started to have language in there that just wasn't hooking us to keep reading the next chapter.
It could be that, but I think it's also about timing. Because I personally listen to most of my books on Audible, and I know there's different times I've started books, and I'm like, no, this just doesn't suit me right now. It's not what I'm looking for. It's not my need right now.
It's true, but you picked up the book, you decided to read page 1 because you were interested in the message you thought it would give you. So what we think is that book kept on that message, but then lost you because it didn't stay to the message that you thought it would be true to.
That makes sense.
So, I mean, and we're in publishing, and so how we feel is if people don't finish our books, we haven't done our job.
failed, yeah.
We failed. And it's not even just finishing the book. It's also finishing the book and saying, oh, my goodness, I have to share this book with someone else.
That's how you know
Addie,
you did it
have to
right.
read the book. Exactly. So that's our standard as we build a book. And it should be exactly, especially when you're using the book as a business tool, that should be the objective. It needs to be a book that has amazing
Right.
value, amazing expertise, and has the hooks that's interesting. And we're not talking about a huge book.
Well, you're also an equity partner in a publishing house called Now SC Press. And
the-
so I think for publishers, you guys have even more, what's the word? You have even more pressure to produce, right? To make sure
Responsibility.
that somebody finishes that book, because it's no longer about just getting that printed into market, because people can self-publish now.
Well, everyone can self-publish, and the quality of the book is key, because if we're saying that my business book represents me, my passion, my ideals, how I'm going to help my client, it better represent me in the very best way. So if I have a self-published book that has maybe typos in it, that doesn't, like we say, captivate and keep the reader, that's not something I'm going to pass on to someone, really you've done a counter. You've done something maybe negative to your experience, is how we feel, versus what we are trying to do, which is to elevate their
So
profile
as a
in the
publishing
market.
house, like, what do you do to make sure that that book succeeds? Like, what goes behind that?
Well, what goes behind it is really it starts with our director of publishing, and she handles all things writing. Her name is Shirley Jump. She is a New York Times bestselling author, USA bestselling author. She has published 70 books with 5 top publishers.
Wow.
She says she's been writing since she was 9, and she has been, because she lied about her age in newspapers and all of that. But basically,
That's awesome.
Well, and it is amazing. And so since she knows how to write best-selling books, I mean, her books are in Target. And that's like very few authors are in Target bookstore.
Right.
But how she feels, kind of you brought this up, was that as we have a responsibility to a reader, if they're going to give us our time to read our book, to make sure it's a captivating and amazing book. So that really sets us apart in the marketplace.
So how would it work if somebody wants to actually write a book? Are they interviewing? Is somebody like the gal you're talking about, is she interviewing the person to help write it in their words? Or
You're so smart about
How is she doing
publishing.
that?
I'm so impressed with
I
this,
know
but you
nothing
really-
about publishing.
Well, you know what? People don't normally ask these type of questions. But yes, so what's unique about our company, our publishing company, Now Publishing, is 2 things. One is we can build the book from the ground up. So someone comes to our office, we're in Northdale, we interview them with the questions, what's your passion? How did you start this business? Why do you love realty? Why are you different at real estate? Why are you different than other realtors? We have these questions that we ask. Then Shirley works with the author and the editing team, and we build the book. And then the other thing that's unique about us is when we publish a book, they have us for 12 months. And that's all promotion and publicity, because we've met so many people that have
now,
these
is that
amazing...
from beginning to end, from the time I start giving you answers to the time the book is published and you need
It's a
help
12
to get it out there?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a 12-month contract, and we were just talking before we went on air that we
So
had...
is it on the author to how fast they move through that process?
It is on the author to... It's a team effort for sure.
Okay.
I mean, we're starting
But I'm
from
saying,
0.
like, if it takes you a long time to get through all the steps, it's not going to really behoove you, right?
Well,
You're trying to write a book?
Well, actually, in the contract, we
2 minutes.
do say that we want to have the book finished within a year, and we really focus on, we have weekly author check-ins. We focus on a timeline. We establish a timeline at the first meeting, because we're going to build a big book launch event, right?
So
We're
a
gonna
curious
have a big
question,
party.
because I really know nothing about publishing. Is that the process for every publisher? Like, is that what they do? They interview the author and help write the book?
That's very unique. No.
Okay.
That's a very unique part of our company, Now Publishing. There are ghostwriters, but you know what? We don't believe in that.
So
because it's
tell me the
not
difference in what's a
authentic.
ghostwriter compared to what you do.
So a ghostwriter, it will go ahead and talk to the author and then just write the book. And
Okay.
that's it. The issue we have had, and this is why we don't believe in it, 2 things is we need it to, we want it to be authentically the person, and also ghostwriting books, what we've seen in our experiences, they all kind of sound the same a little bit. It needs to be the unique person, the unique client's voice in it. Yep.
Yeah, I have actually 2 books, ghostwritten. I've never read them.
Oh.
That are your books.
They're my books.
You've never read
never read them cover to cover.
Well,
Wow.
and the other part of it, see, this would be hard for us, because the other reason that we don't ghostwrite is that we need to be able to promote you for a year. And I can't say, wow, he's such an amazing author. He's got such great insight. If it isn't if it isn't you that wrote it.
Yeah, but I use the book
So-
as, like you said, a business card. It's like the wow
You
factor.
can. You can.
I mean, here's the thing with books too. It's kind of like a blog, right? And I was one of the people that started blogging early before people knew what a blog was. And the one thing I can tell you about that, because I don't know anything about publishing, is the unique voice of the author. You can see that and you can hear it. You can tell if other people are writing their blogs, or you can tell if that's them. So I was part of that original group of agents that started blogging all over the country, and many of those people are now best-selling authors as well.
15.
So. All right, you're listening to Tampa Home Talk. We're already out of time for segment 1, but we will be back in just a few minutes. Stick around. And 813-377-2775 is our off-air number. We'll be back in just a moment.
Good morning. Welcome back to Tampa Home Talk, where you can reach us on our off-air number at 813-377-2775.
I put that there just for you in case you forgot it.
813-377-2775.
What's going on with your voice? Are you sick?
No, I was sick. I'm over it now. I got a
You
little.
better not be bringing any funk into the
No,
studio.
I'm completely better now. I'm completely better. I'm going on my trip tomorrow. I am gonna.
Where are you going?
Going to Australia.
Oh, wow.
Is that why you're gone? You're missing our 5-year anniversary.
Yeah, I am missing the 5 year. I'm sorry about that, and I need about 30 of these books to read on the flight because, as a speed reader,
Well,
Yeah,
I have
so
about
he
30
does this.
titles in my car.
Let me
I'm
tell you,
not- I'm
Lisa,
kidding.
Marie, he does this every single time somebody comes into the studio with a book. He skims through it. So he says he speed reads, but I'm just curious. Let's see what he's got so far now that he's on page 78.
no, I really loved your book. I mean, it talks about.
I read it already.
I'm only about halfway through it, but what I love is the way that you set it up. Obviously, your target audience on this book is young women professionals.
Correct.
I'm going to call you out on it. Give me some meat and potatoes. You
Yeah,
talk
what's
about
on
it right
page
away.
55?
No, I
stop.
so you talk about how just having the degree isn't enough, and
Right.
that's advice for both men and women. But as a man, I mean, I can tell you the book's obviously targeting women. But are there takeaways that men should pick up this book too?
Are you saying you don't want to read it because
No,
she's
I-
targeting young women?
No, I've
Well,
Didn't read his own book, you know.
It's not necessarily targeting only women. It's that it's based on my experience of hiring young women right out of college. Actually, the endorsement on the back is one of my mentors, Peter Kamek. He's COO of a big company here, and he was senior vice president when he was my mentor. And he wrote that it is for men in the back, and that it's takeaways for everyone. It really is that idea based that you come to the table, and it's a level playing field. And you need to act appropriately that way. And I still, we go back to the basics on client services. If someone needs a cup of coffee and we're all in a conference room, be the first one to get up and offer to do it. And I do think there's different types of, work ethics and different types of people and how they feel about themselves being self-important or levels of self-importance. And the whole thing is all that should go away. I mean, you should do the very best for your client and for your friend and for your community, period. And if you just have that heart in business and you start with that as a young person in your career, you're going to go far.
So,
Well,
what about the title, though? Where'd that title come from?
Yeah.
How'd you get that, and how does that relate to the book?
So the title Never Drink Coffee During a Business Meeting, which is really hilarious because I was completely addicted to Starbucks living in Seattle for 16 years. Completely. I had 2 lattes a day and all of that. So the title came from that Starbucks headquarters was one of our clients. And there's a great story in the book about our Starbucks experience. But it came from our publisher in marketing saying, hey, we need to say, let's use the Never Drink Coffee During a Business Meeting, and we'll say you have to buy the book to find the answer. But here's the answer.
Yes, you have to give us the answer. You can't leave us hanging.
I know. But when we went on the tour,
Or Leo might find it in T-minus 5 seconds counting.
He already knows it.
What's the answer?
ahead.
Let's see if he knows.
We'll see if he knows.
haven't got what.
The answer to Never Drink Coffee During a Business Meeting.
Well, I only know that because you already told.
See, I wasn't going to reveal that.
I hadn't gotten there in the book, but it makes sense.
What's your guess?
You want to be in control, and I'm in that about teams right now. You want to be in control of the meeting. You want to be in control of the situation. If you're drinking coffee and you have to excuse yourself to take a phone call, use the restroom, you've lost that, we'll call it seat of power in the meeting, and then it could be used for the meeting to actually end early and things of that nature.
Or things to go another way, or influences. He got it right.
If I didn't have a broadcaster mic on, I totally would have had coffee.
Well,
Already
actually,
had
I
my
have an
coffee.
interesting statistic I read in this book. I think it was on like a page 30, but you mentioned that only 1 in 20 CEOs of Fortune 500 company are women, but on the small business side, it was like 1 in 4. And I see that all the time in the networking world.
Why do you think that is?
I think because as there wasn't enough women to mentor other women to bring them up in the ranks, honestly. I mean, at that time.
I'm just going to go right out there and say what I think, because I can say whatever I want, right, for the most part. As long as I'm FCC compliant. I don't buy that. And I'm just going to tell you, because we work with all types, right? I love all my people, and if I don't love you, I'm not going to work with you. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what religion. I don't care if you're male or female. So personally, I don't buy into the whole, oh, I'm a woman, I have a unfair advantage. Oh, I'm a Hispanic person, I have an unfair advantage. I'm picking on you because you're here. I'm Peruvian, I have an unfair advantage. And I have dark hair, I have an unfair advantage.
Yeah, no, you're
like, if
100%.
I felt like that way, I would be like the redheaded stepchild of every meeting. Like,
no, you're 100% right. And
I think the faster we get that stuff out of society, the more equal people become.
I do agree with that. I think, though, that there was, I mean, even look at the new Congress, right? The new House of Representatives, and everything is changing that way in terms of different people in there, from different backgrounds. But when I started in tech, and I can honestly tell you, I went through IBM management training, and this is when I was 25 years old. There was two women in a group of technical engineering classes.
I agree with that.
You know, so now there's probably more than half, and there's women in tech, and there's all this now, and this is 25 years later.
So I got to tell you, I can relate to that story because 25 years ago myself, I was in this space. It was a very, very, very young mortgage person, and I happened to work in an office with 3 women. And our office manager just happened to be a woman, which was probably the only, looking back now, she may have been the only one in the whole company. But I very specifically remember, and I was born and raised here, so it was right here in Tampa, and I remember the general manager coming in to some of the guys in the office and saying, hey, if your numbers are up this month, I'm going to take you guys to Mons Venus. And at the time, I let it roll off. I didn't think anything about it, but the office manager was fired up. She was so mad about that. She's like, well, what are you going to do for the women if we don't want to go to Mons Venus?
Right.
So it was just I can see where that would exist, maybe even more 25 years ago than it does now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, now, me too. Are you kidding? I mean, there would be...
I couldn't even imagine that being...
Right.
even if you're in an office of all men, I couldn't imagine that flying today in 2019. That's crazy.
Culture. I mean, it changes,
And she still lives right here in Tampa. I should have her on the air sometime just to share that story and, and she was a big mentor of mine. She approached me when I was less than 18 years old and said, you would be excellent at doing mortgages. And I did that for 17 years.
I was going to ask if she was a mentor. And for me as well, my first mentors were women, and they were excellent. They taught me things about business, about not having emotions. And they taught me some really fantastic.
So I have a question for you, because you talked about finally getting into that corporate experience, and you were 2 out of I don't know how many people, maybe 50, 100. Does it obviously the change needs to happen on the corporate side and all that stuff, but what do the numbers look like? And I don't know if you know, but what do the numbers look like as far as the ratio in the STEM majors and education field that,
I'm not going to have the ratios only because I've now been out of tech for 5-6 years. Mm-hmm. But I do still actually go to Tech Week, and I have still some contacts there. So I don't really have the stats. But like I said, what I love is this women who code. Mm-hmm. There's, women in tech. There's girls who code. There's all these different programs. And, these days, every child that's 12, we're talking about having 12-year-olds and having young, they really code. I mean, they really have that brain and that mindset, and I love that. I mean, STEM's important for all, but...
I realized when I saw a 2-year-old swiping the TV once that the world was forever changing.
That's awesome.
Speaking of, young children, you bring up 2 very interesting points here. One is to find a great mentor, and you bring up 10 different criteria of that mentor. The other part is, until you find a mentor, look for a role model. So could you talk a little bit about what you should be looking for in a role model, and then which of those 10 criteria in your book, Never Drink Coffee During a Business Meeting, would be the most important of the 10?
And what's the difference, really, between a role model and a mentor?
That's true.
Really very similar. And actually, I want to take it back to your industry, to the real estate market, because I know you do that with the shadowing and mentoring, right? So a new realtor, going behind or working with in conjunction with an established agent. The first thing I'd say, just going back to business and back to basics, is make sure that role model / mentor is really pulling in the revenue and the dollars and the business talks. They might not, that might not be the person that's the most friendly, the most open to helping you, the one that, everyone likes or whatever. I mean, look at the bottom line. And you look at that when you're evaluating your your product or your team or your productivity, you always look at the numbers. So I'd say start
That's
with
an excellent point. Make sure they can put their money where their mouth is. Make sure they're actually producing.
And they have not just this year, but last year and the next year. I mean, it even is likened to when we have a potential client come to say they might publish with us. They say, well, we're looking at this publisher and this publisher. I say, do this. I said, contact 5 of their clients, current clients within the last 6 months. So they really get that. And, make sure that you're behind the right person and you're trying to emulate or trying to be mentored by the right person. So that's key. That's the first key. The second key is you need to make sure that that person really has the bandwidth to help you sufficiently. And it needs to be something that's a regular, I have a spiritual mentor and we have breakfast once a month. And it's difficult, to make that connection, but to make it regular, but it's important to both of us and that. So I would say just off the top, I'm hearing music off the top of my head.
I think your special guest to the right can relate, especially for that, because she started out as a client of ours, and now she's an agent with our team. So I mentioned Autumn at the earlier part of the show, but I'm really glad, and I'm honored that you're here in the studio with us.
Thank you.
Is this your first time here?
It's my second time.
Okay, because I thought you were in one other time. All right, you're listening to Tampa Home Talk, and our off-air number is 813-377-2775. 813-377-2775. If you want to get more information about my guest that's in the studio, maybe you are this business executive or CEO and you really feel like you could be well branded from your own book, call me. I would love to connect you. 813-377-2775. 813-377-2775. This is Tampa Home Talk. Coming up in just a couple minutes, Adam Talley is going to give us our insurance tip of the week.
Hot. Good morning and welcome back to Tampa Home Talk. This is Adam Talley and I am here with our 2-minute tip of the week, and today we're talking about books and reading. And one of the things that I see most common and how I save people the most money is usually when they buy a house and they get their insurance policy, they get that policy, they stick it in the drawer, and they never look at it again. So
that's me.
4, 5, 6 years down the line, they don't realize either coverages have changed or the premium's gone way, way, way up. We had a guy yesterday, his current insurance policy was $3,700 a year. We requoted him and we got him down to $1,400 a year. So it pays to read what they send you in the mail. And the coverage is better. That's more coverage.
We're going to have to we talked about this before, but we're going to plan this show where we literally dissect an insurance policy so we can talk about all those little paragraphs, what they mean, nobody ever reads, and what's the one thing or 2 things or 5 things you should be paying attention to in that policy.
I would love it. I look forward to that.
Doesn't that sound exciting, Mark? Would you pay attention to that show if you were listening?
I would actually pay attention to any show that you have to do with. I love listening to on the radio here, Trina. And I heard you talking off the air about radio personalities. I think you're a great radio personality. I think after 5 years being on the air, you should consider yourself a personality.
Yes. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
You should read your own Audible. You should do audiobooks.
Okay, that's going a little too far.
It's funny because when I first got approached to do Tampa Home Talk 5 years ago, I had told them, no, I'm not going to do it. And they said, why? Why wouldn't you want to do it? I said, because I'm a real estate agent. I'm not a radio show host, and I don't want to get distracted by shiny objects because there's a lot of them in our business. And they said, no, you're missing it. You're missing the big opportunity. You're missing all the people you can meet, all the things you can learn, and what you might be able to do with this. And it's interesting. When I started, 5 years ago, there's only one other one that started at the same time that's still on, me.
Congratulations. And, when you look at the stats of how many business fail in the first year, what the 5 year, what the 7 years, it's just, you should definitely be congratulated for your longevity and what you're doing.
Well, it's a lot of work. Certainly, I don't do that on my own. I have a team, and, our radio show coordinator is rocking. So I got to give a big hats off to Jodine because she puts all the details and the pieces behind. She's a lot of the magic, and I just I get to show up and have all the fun, right?
Well, you do lead the team, though. Don't negate that part of it.
And some statistics to add to that, you are coming up on close to 300 hours of being on the air.
Actually, you know what, Mark? It is over 300 hours. We were going back and look at that because now, right, everybody labels their podcast like episode 1, 2, 3. Well, we didn't do that 5 years ago. We just didn't do it. And then, as a matter of fact, I started on another station, and I was there for 2 years. And when I moved, I lost all of those shows. I lost 2 years worth of shows. Then I went to a smaller station, And at one point, we did 4 hours a week on that station. So I've kind of been all over the board, not from 1 hour. So I used to do 4. Wow. So, you know, that was a lot of work to do 4 shows a week. Right. We would do them back to back, but it's a lot of hours. And so I was trying to actually figure that out, Mark, before the show. But being that we lost some and some came over and some didn't, and then we actually changed to where, you know, we host our own shows now, meaning that the station doesn't have control of them. They're never going to go away unless I don't pay to keep them there. You know, they're never going to go away. So we can actually, I think it's somewhere between 300 and 400 shows.
Wow. So Katrina is a role model and a mentor in all kinds of different levels.
Yes, she is.
But I really appreciate you bringing that up, Mark, because I probably would have totally forgot about it.
So I can ask.
Well, that's also why we leave the numbers to you. I had a rough draft going, but thank you for the equation.
Thank you.
Know. But seriously, Katrina, many congrats. I know you're going to have a celebration in a week or so to celebrate 5 years.
We are,
on the air.
And thank you for bringing that up,
awesome.
Because, by the way, not only are many of our guests coming to that networking mixer meet and greet, but also some of our listeners and some of our past clients are also going to be coming, because some of you guys have been listening for a long time. You've won things on the air. We keep your information, and then we love to invite you when we do that kind of thing, and we haven't done it in about 2 years.
And tell us when that is again.
So it's going to be next Thursday, the 17th, and it's from 4:30 until 7 p.m. at Brick House Tap and Tavern, right off 275. We picked that nice neutral location by you, even though you're not going to be here, and by you, Adam, but you're going to be there, right?
Yep.
So if you want to meet Adam Talley and figure out how to save some money on your insurance as well, he's going to be there. Pat George is going to be there. We wish Mark was going to come, but you know, he'll be glued down to his seat in the studio, unfortunately. So, and you can...
Or fortunately.
Well, you know, fortunately for the listeners, for sure, but unfortunately, because we won't get the chance to meet you and hang out with you.
I know. I'm so sad, especially when you say this. Some listeners will be there. I don't get to meet the listeners often enough, so that would be awesome. I'm jealous of that. Sounds really fun.
It's funny, too, and I think about that because it's interesting when you guys say, oh, you are an on-air personality. I still, even 5 years later, don't feel like I am. So when I get approached often, and I've even had people, like I've been sitting in waiting rooms and they'll say, I know you. I feel like I know you. I feel like I've met you. Well, they've listened to Tampa Home Talk. I've actually never met them. And we discovered that through talking. And then they kind of shift a little bit how they talk to me, which makes me feel a little weird. But, you know, I'm like anybody else. Walking around on the street.
Radio celebrity.
Yeah, it's very, I think I'm very approachable. You know,
Well, they wanted to talk to you directly. How can they find...
813-377-2775, and many of our folks do. Many people are surprised when they call our number to get some real estate help that, you know, when we're going to do a listing appointment or a buyer appointment, you're going to meet me. I'm going to be the one doing your consultation, leading you, guiding you, protecting you through the process, and you're more than likely also going to connect with somebody else like from my team, like Ada, to also help with the many, many details that go into it. And it's our goal to give you an extraordinary experience because, you know, many of our folks, believe it or not, they don't come from radio initially. Some do, but the majority of our people are repeat, referred, and past clients. And we're talking 80 to 90% every year. So 813-377-2775. That's our off-air number you can call or text. 813-377-2775.
So let's bring this back to never drink coffee during a business meeting again. The book kind of wraps up towards taking risks, which is very important for business professionals to get comfortable doing that. And then there's a tendency to become complacent as become successful. So what are some of the tricks you mentioned in this book about staying relevant?
Good question. I want to tackle the risk one first, though, because the title of the book actually was supposed to be, now I'm forgetting it, but it was... oh shoot!
You forget it because you didn't actually name it that, right?
Well, it was the title I wanted, but it was about I discovered in myself that I'm definitely a risk taker, not just in business but in my life. So I moved to Seattle when I was young, not knowing anyone. In fact, the company IBM moved me. They purchased my apartment, that whole thing, and I moved to Tampa Bay, not knowing anyone, just taking the risk and starting the publishing business. Not having that publishing background was a risk. You have to be willing to just step out. And how it always worked for me was that anytime there's a decision, I always say, what is the worst case? right? What is the worst case? Let's say that you decide to go to be a realtor for the first time. Well, what's the worst case? You do it for a year. You work very, very hard. You try to make it happen. And if you fail, then you fail, but you've learned a lot past the year.
Well, I got to tell you, the statistics for realtors alone, just being in the business a year later is small. And then when you look at a 4-year time, it's almost non-existent.
I believe that. And you know why? Because one of the reasons why is because it is so, you've got to do a lot of work. It's a lot of
It's a lot of work. It's a lot more work than it looks like on the surface.
It absolutely is. And where you start losing people,
isn't it? You know from experience now.
Yes.
Yeah. And where you start losing them is after year 1, it's still hard. After year 2, it's still hard. Our company now, we're past the 3-year mark, but I consider us a startup until we get to 5, actually. So
yep.
and
from the
E-Myth,
is that where you pull that from?
No, but
okay.
But for us, for our team, it's still hard. It's still cash flow issues. It's still team issues. It's still infrastructure that didn't work that we put processes in places for. And the thing is, it's really that idea that as you're building a startup and you're building a business or you're becoming a realtor for the first time, you have this plane on the ground and you're trying to get it up there. Our plane now publishing is in the air. We're almost at 10,000 feet, I think, and then we have to stay there for a while, right? We haven't gotten where we need to get. That's way down the road, past the 5-year mark. But I really look at it that way. But part of that, going back to your question,
you didn't even talk about the turbulence, which we talk about in every single consultation, don't we, Autumn?
I was thinking the same thing. Katrina uses that very same example.
It's 100%
we talk about the
true.
types of turbulence in a real estate transaction, and it's a lot like, when you're in a plane. You may encounter some turbulence. It's part of flying. It's not going to be perfect.
Well, you will encounter it, right? I mean, you will have struggles in the business. You will have months that are fantastic revenue and then 3 or 4 months that aren't. You will have the red and the black.
Or you could be like me and live through the housing crash and have 3 or 4 months with zero income because everything on the market's a short sale.
No, absolutely. And that's part of the risk of being a business owner, right? Or working for yourself in that versus a steady paycheck.
Right.
But it's an extremely important part of a successful business is being able to think out of the box and react as a business in a new way.
And as a CEO, you have to be okay with being the last one to get paid and might not get paid, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's the business that where you put your money into. It's not yourself. It's running the funds back into the business.
It's a different spirit, like the whole heart of the entrepreneur. Not everyone can do that.
No, and unfortunately, that's the reason for the stats of people going out of business in the first year. 3-year, 5-year, 7-year mark. You might be good at something. You might be great at coding, but that doesn't mean you know how to code and run a business, right? So
they're very different.
Business is a very different skill, right? And even as leadership in the business, it's good for you to recognize those skills you don't have. Like I don't want to do the accounting, the CPA. I know I probably kind of know
I
how
could
to
do it. I'm not doing it.
Exactly. Hire someone for it. Have an expert that does it. We say in our team
I
many
tell you,
times,
I love my bookkeeper. Like I wouldn't be without her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. One of the things we say all the time is we're not going to reinvent the wheel. There is someone out there that's already done this, whatever new thing we're doing or thinking of doing. Audiobooks, we were starting to talk about that. We're not going to do it. I'm not going to buy a studio.
So let's jump into that and talk about it because that was one of the things that we spoke about off air. And now we say, like, if you get the chance, watch us on our live stream because, we talk about so many things off air that sometimes don't make it to the air. And it's just the way it is. But my personal belief, and I know you said Audible is a mandatory, if you write a book, there has to be an audio book that matches it. But I think, and just because I've read so many books and most of the stuff I listen to is self-help, huge difference many times. And when the author reads it compared to a professional, what's a professional reader?
Yeah, professional voice. There are experts that's all they do for a living is they, are the voice of the Audible books. So, as I said, this is going to be something where we're going to go back and take our titles for the last 3 years and make them into an audiobook, and then new clients coming on, it's going to be a standard offering that we produce an audiobook. We haven't yet, but in the research for us to get ready for that, we've, as a team, have talked about whether it's the author's voice or not.
Yeah.
The issue is some of the authors don't have great voices.
Right.
And some of the, and the thing about it, just like a book, like we want a reader to keep turning pages because they have hooks. We want the listener to not lose the listener.
Yeah, and there's times that the person reading it ruins the book.
Right. But I do agree, because I love audiobooks. When there's a female
seconds.
reading a male book, that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
The male, or the
Yes,
other way,
I
right?
agree.
I at least want it to be definitely same-sex reading the book. But we're open. We're open to,
All right. So Lisa Marie, when we come back on Tampa Home Talk, can we talk about the cost? Like, what can someone expect if they actually want to launch and write their own book and they would love to hire you?
Sure.
I want to know what something like that might cost someone like me
Yep.
if I wanted to do that. And we're going to talk about reasons why you believe realtors should write a book. That would be so much fun. All right.
seconds.
Tampa Home Talk. We'll be back in just a minute.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk on this lovely January 11th, 2019 show on why all business executives should be branded by their book, with our guest, Lisa Marie Garcia.
Lisa.
Oh, I just lost my I
Lisa.
lost my audition
Sorry.
for being a professional book reader just there. I was auditioning and I
Yes.
just lost it. I didn't have
Sorry.
Hopefully, I'm still in the
I
running.
didn't mean to kick you, Leo.
the names are always tricky. That's why I love books that are nonfiction, because when you have fiction books, you got all these weird names, and I start reading them, and then I lose clients left and right for my professional book reading experience. I try and model my book reading skills after Morgan Freeman, the best book
Not
reader
close at all.
in the world.
And if you want to catch us or our guests, just call our off-air number, 813-377-2775. We'd be happy to connect you with our guest. Or if you'd like our help or any of our show partners, 813-377-2775.
I got a great question. How would I know if Adam's story is unique enough to make into a book? I already know mine is. So how would we know if Adam's
How
story...
do you know yours
Yeah,
is?
because insurance is not usually the big page turner that
Well,
maybe real estate is.
It's
Yeah.
definitely the question. It is the question. So when we meet with a potential client, that's the question that they'll sometimes ask or will sometimes ask. And Shirley Jump, as I mentioned, our director of publishing, will make sure. She usually will say something like, no, that is not a unique niche. That is not going to draw readers to buy your book. That has been said
Sorry,
500 times before. There are 1,000 books on that subject. So we will start there, and then what we do is we will find the unique message. We will find something that will differentiate your book or your message to publish. And to be honest, we have clients that we never found that unique or marketable message, and they didn't become clients.
I love that
Sorry,
transparency.
Adam.
I really do.
That's okay. At least I'm still in the running to actually be the
You're
professional
running-
book reader.
That's right.
You
You
know, it
are.
may not be
That
my
I think
book,
you could
but
do for sure.
Is it difficult to like you found the unique message? Is it difficult to get the book published? I mean, you're not using a ghostwriter means that you have to take that unique message and turn it into 150 pages. With a ghostwriter, I like that aspect because you take that unique message and you give them a couple of outlines, and then they just basically create a textbook. They're boring to read.
That you've never read.
That-
No. So first of all, yes, it is a team effort, meaning the client and our team of editors and content editing that we do to build the book. As far as if it's difficult or not, the only difficulty would be if the client doesn't work with us. And what we do is we have these author check-ins every week, so we keep everyone on track. But it really is our best authors, our best clients are those that are really involved heavily in the team. However, we are able to produce, I think that we produced one book within the 60-day time frame, and typically we're 90 days from start to finish. So that is pretty much unheard of in the traditional publishing marketplace. And that was one of the reasons that we came up with the Now Publishing idea that we can publish your book now.
So I got a question for you. Even with something like real estate, right, which you would think would be unique enough, I think even with that, the message could be a little bit different, right? Because if you're looking at real estate, are you a buyer or seller? What type of seller are you? What type of buyer are you?
Well, and don't you as a realtor, you decide what is your niche. What are you going to be strong in? Are you strong in relocations? Are you strong in certain houses of certain values? And this is not my industry. Are you strong with, certain types of professionals? So when you decide that, you're really deciding what is the message of your book. How is my book differentiating me from everyone else and speaking to the clients that I'm specifically going after?
I don't know. I think if it were me and I were to write a book, I think I would break it down a little bit by where they're at. So I would say meet them where they're at and start with everybody from the first-time home buyer to the person that it's going to be their last home. And, maybe they're selling and it's a next-gen type situation where they're living with the children, or maybe they have to move into assisted living. So I think that's what my message would be, because I could very clearly talk about any of those stages in between.
So, but overall, I agree with you. I hear what you're saying. So you're saying, I can work with this buyer and to this buyer, but overall, what's your overall message to them based on your experience?
My overall message?
Yeah.
I don't know that that's a relevant question. Which one's my favorite? I could tell you that.
Well, what are you strong? Why are you so strong in being able to talk to all the different?
Because I know exactly what they need before they need it, and I know how to make it happen.
So that's your unique message.
So for me, it's not a big deal. And we've talked about the stories where we'll go in, and I had a couple. I had one now that's under she really wanted this house, but was adamant about making the offer with the contingency, and I said, we don't need it. I'll sell your house.
See,
you don't need the contingency. We're going to sell it and make it happen. And most agents are not comfortable doing that.
That's what makes you unique, and that would be your unique message of your book. Exactly.
But when you sold enough, you know how to do anything.
Right.
You can figure it out.
Right.
So why do you think agents need to write a book?
So there's
about 2.5 minutes.
There's a few things. We already talked about making, having your specific niche in it. The other part of that would be fantastic is, if you've ever been in a networking meeting and people stand up and they give their, 60-second commercial about what they do, I love it because the person will say, and I, like you said, I can sell a home to anyone. And by the way, and so it should say, and by the way, I wrote a book on it because I am an expert in this.
See, if I were to go to the networking things, and you guys can both talk about this, maybe not you so much because I know you do networking, but not with me, but you've been at a networking event where I've been there, and I feel like I'm a little bit out of the element. I don't feel like I really fit in. So when I show up, I'm not going to say, hi, I'm Katrina Madewell, I'm a real estate agent. That's just not me. And I would show up and I would say, hey, my name's Katrina Madewell.
This book says you need to own the room, you need to brag.
But if somebody were asking, what do you do? I would say, we help people love where they live.
Well, that's
and if
perfect.
They don't love where they live, we're going to fix it.
That's
and then they're like, well,
perfect.
tell me more. And then that's when we go into what we do.
Well, and the other part
Coming
of it
up on
is
1
that
minute soon.
with speaking engagements. I assume you've done some speaking engagements and could probably...
No, not many.
No?
No.
Well, you should. And if you're speaking, and as you begin to speak, if you have a book, that's an increased revenue source for you, of course, and that also gives you credibility to speak.
All right, your music starts in about 30 seconds.
You have a book,
and you're up in about 1 minute.
It really does come down to how you're different in the marketplace. I mean, when I wrote the Never Drink Coffee During a Business Meeting, as a tech
I'm sorry, your music will start in about 30 seconds
so,
from now.
When I was in tech, it wasn't so much a marketable industry or marketplace like it is now. But once I wrote the book, it was like, oh my goodness, really? You have that expertise. I'd had it all along, but until I put it down in a book, it didn't seem to be a part of me. So
maybe we'll write a book this year on why tech is not going to replace real estate agents like
30 seconds.
me.
Love
there
it.
you go.
Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. If you want to connect with a rock star ELP like me, because I am endorsed by Dave, it's 813-377-2775. We would love to help you meet you
15.
where you're at, whether you're buying your first home or you're relocating maybe in with your children, you're a little bit older in age, or you're trying to figure out how to buy that move-up home because you don't have enough space. 813-377-2775. Remember, love where you live. We're going to fix it. Adam?